Harihi Om, Namassarvebhyaha. Welcome everyone to this second session in the series of Samskrita Vyakarane Pratyayaha. In today's session, we will talk about the first two pratyayas in our series, namely the Sup Pratyayaha and the Ting Pratyayaha. Let us start with the Mangalacharanam. वर्णानामर्थसङ्घानां रसानां छन्दसामपि मङ्गलानां च कर्तारौ वन्दे वाणी विनायकौ येनाक्षरसमाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. Let me just give a few instructions, guidelines before we actually start the course today. So the very first point, I have received feedback from many students requesting that we should go a little bit slower, probably because these are still the students and they would like to revise concepts, once, twice, thrice before moving ahead. So yes, we will go slow. More important is, please ask questions if you are stuck. Do not think that your question is stupid. And this is mainly for the students of first year, second year who are attending this class. If you do not ask any questions, I cannot know whether you have understood. Usually, in a live session, live in the sense face to face session, even looking at the faces of the students, the teacher can understand whether a concept is clear or not. We don't have that luxury over here. So please ask questions. You can type the questions in the chat box. If you do not ask questions, I will assume that everything is already clear. Please pay complete attention. Take down only minimal notes. In the last class, many students had their attention divided between paying attention versus writing down quickly in their notebook. So take down only minimal amount of notes. I'll make the video accessible after a few hours of class and it will be made available till Friday. Please watch the video on priority. Pause it on regular intervals. So listen for 2 minutes, pause, take down notes, again listen. You can actually use the speed control on YouTube to play the video at slow speed and take down full detailed notes. And then after Friday, I'm going to disable the video. This is the request from the organizers, and I'll make the video available again towards the end of December when the entire lecture series is over. And more importantly, without homework, no concept becomes firm in your mind. So please make sure to complete the homework on time. Let us do a quick revision before we move ahead. So in the previous class, in the first class of Pratyayaha, we started with the very basic fundamental topic of word, Shabdaha. And we understood that a shabda, a word, is any sound which carries a certain meaning. Arthavan dhvanihi nochet varna samuhaha shabdaha namna jnayate. This word is of four types: padam, pratipadikam, dhatuhu, and pratyayaha. We learned the definition of each. Padam is a word which can be used in a sentence. This is further divided into Namapadam and Kriyapadam. Each of them has its own base, Moolam. So the Moolam, the base entity, the root of Namapadam is the Pratipadikam. So for Ramasya, it becomes Rama. And similarly, for a verb, Pathati, the Moola root, Patha, it becomes the Dhatu. These three types of words are very well known. The fourth is pratyayaha, which is a word specific to the Vyakarana Shastra. So we have a total of 800 pratyayas divided typically into 7 or 8 groups. Supratyayas, ting pratyayas, vikarana, sanadi, stri, tadhita, kruta. So these first 7 are found inside Ashtadhyayi, and the 8th one is outside Ashtadhyayi, that's the Unadi Pratyayaha. These pratyayas do not carry any meaning in the language. So unlike Ramasya or Pathati, Ktwa, Lyap don't have meanings on their own. Parantu Vyakarana Shastre, in the Vyakarana Shastra, they have a certain meaning. We are going to discuss that in today's class for sup and ting pratyayas and then for other pratyayas in remaining classes. The fundamental reason why pratyayas are given is to stamp or is to give the concept of vyutpatti, etymology, derivation. So all words can be derived using pratyayas. We studied that beautiful diagram where different entities take pratyayas and lead to different entities. That's a very, very crucial diagram. You must memorize, all of you must memorize that. Any entity to which a pratyaya is attached is called a prakruti. We studied about prakruti. We studied about types of pratyayas, dyotakas and vachakas. The dyotaka pratyaya, also called swarthika pratyaya, there is a minor difference between the two, but I'll come to that in a later point in time in the course. For now, just we use the words dyotaka and swarthika interchangeably. So dyotaka or swarthika pratyayas and vachaka pratyayas. The Dyotaka pratyayas do not carry their own meaning. An example was Bala plus Ka becoming Balaka. The meaning of Ka is copied down to Balak. The meaning of Bala is copied down to Balaka without Ka interfering anywhere. And finally, we talked about the concept of Anubandhaha, special markers that are used in the pratyayas to tell how the prakriya should proceed, how the final form should be created using the sutras of Ashtadhyayi. Then we moved on to further detailed discussion of these pratyayas and the kind of role they play in the vyutpatti. So pada is of two types, namapada and kriyapadam. The namapadam is generated by adding supratyaya to a pratipadikam. Kriyapadam is generated by adding a vikarana pratyaya and a ting pratyaya in this sequence to a dhatu. The Pratipadikam is of five types. We studied all these five types together. Stri Pratyayanta Pratipadikam, Tadhitantam Pratipadikam, Krudantam Pratipadikam, Samasantam Pratipadikam, and Unadi Pratyayantam Pratipadikam. We learned the equations of all of these. So a Stri Pratyayanta Pratipadikam, Tadhita Pratyayanta Pratipadikam, and a Samasanta Pratipadikam is generated from a Pratipadikam, whereas the Krut Pratyayanta and Unadi Pratyayanta Pratipadikam is generated from a Dhatu. So these equations we have studied in details. I also mentioned that this particular set of equations, so Prakritihi plus Pratyayaha is equal to Pratyayantaha Shabdaha. This is the fundamental equation of Sanskrit grammar. And then we also saw that there are some pratipadikas like ha, hu. Somebody randomly names their kids. What you will do? So then these are avyutpanna pratipadikas in the context of Ashtadhyayi, where Unadi Pratyayas are not fully recognized as the part of the system. Even the Unadi Pratyayanta Pratipadikas are also considered avyutpanna. So purely in that particular domain of Ashtadhyayi, Unadi Pratyayanta Pratipadikas cannot be derived by any other means. So they will be called avyutpanna. This was the discussion about the Pratipadikas. Then we went to Dhatus. Dhatus are of two types, Aupadeshika Dhatu and Atideshika Dhatu. Aupadeshika, I forgot typing a k over here, typing mistake. Aupadeshika Dhatu is a Dhatu listed in this book called Dhatu Patha. 2000 such Dhatus are there. These are really the roots, they are the base. You cannot derive them from someone else. So these are avyutpanna. And then you have Atideshika Dhatuhu, the one that can be derived either using a Pratipadikam or using a Dhatu with help of a Sanadi Pratyaya. And then towards the end of the class, we studied that all the words can be generated starting with a Dhatu. So this very beautiful statement, very beautiful Siddhanta attributed to Shakatayana, a grammarian called Shakatayana. Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha. Starting from the Aupadeshika Dhatu, you add pratyayas one after the other. We saw examples like Raghavaha or Raghavasya, Kausalleyasya, and so on. One of the examples was also given in the homeworks. Please make sure you do it on time. So Aupadeshika Dhatu, you start with that. Keep on adding the different pratyayas and finally you can get the word that you are looking for. That is the summary of the entire previous class. Now what we are going to start is the discussion of sup pratyayas. In today's class, my goal is to teach the sup pratyayas and the ting pratyayas. The class is going to be longer. You all have got the message on WhatsApp. It's going to be a 2-hour class. Hopefully not completely 2 hour, maybe quarter to 2 hours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach the sup pratyayas. Then I'll give a 5 minutes of break. Then we will come back and we will learn the ting pratyayas so that it will not be a full saturated 2-hour session. Let me repeat, at any point in time, if you think the speed is high, or if you think that you want some further explanation on a topic, please send a message. I will be happy to repeat some of the concepts in sup pratyayas and ting pratyayas that I'm going to teach you today are extraordinarily difficult. You have never heard about them in any of your textbooks so far, and they are going to change the entire perspective of how you look at the sup pratyayas and ting pratyayas completely. So, paying full attention is extremely important. Let us start. The first set of pratyayas we are going to learn are sup pratyayas. How many of them? 21 of them. There are 21 sup pratyayas. All of them are attached to a pratipadikam and the subanta, the pada, nama pada is created. All of us have memorized various tables. So balaha balau balaha, balam balau balan, and so on up to bale balayoho baleshu. There are 7 rows, 3 columns, 7 multiplied by 3, 21. Sambodhana repeats the pratyayas of Prathama. So Sambodhana is not a separate set of pratyayas, it repeats the pratyayas of Prathama. That's why it is also called as Prathama Sambodhanam. Let me read these pratyayas. Everybody of you must memorize these pratyayas in exactly the way it is written. You don't need to write them down right now. When the video is made available, write them down, but memorization is compulsory, it is not optional. Su, au, jas. There is a Chandra Bindu present over Su. The pratyaya has to be written like that. Su, au, jas. Out. Extra takara is there. Out, shas. Ta, bhyam, bhis. Nye, bhyam, bhyas. Ngasi, bhyam, bhyas. Ngas. So very similar to the Panchami, but just an extra ikara with Chandra Bindu is there in the Panchami, not in the Shashti. So ngas, os, am, and ni, os, sup. These are the 21 pratyayas. You attach these pratyayas to words like say Bala, Muni, Nadi, Marut, and so on, and you get different forms. So Bala plus Su becomes Balaha. Bala plus Au becomes Balau. Bala plus Jas becomes Balaha. How does it get converted? That's the part of prakriya. That's the part of systematic derivation. Like how two elements or chemicals combine together, there is a proper reaction that happens. Exactly, there is a reaction, prakriya that happens. You will learn that when you start studying Paniniya Vyakaranam in details. Those who are not studying, basically before, without studying the Paniniya Vyakaranam, without studying the sutras, we cannot understand the prakriya. Therefore, we will just say some unknown mechanism, but say Bala plus Jasa becomes Balaha. Same set of pratyayas for every word. So Nadi plus Su becomes Nadi. Nadi plus Jas becomes Nadyaha. Marut plus Su becomes Marut. Marut plus Au becomes Marutau. Same set of pratyayas. Even Prathama and Sambodhanam, it is same pratyaya Su that is being added. So let us quickly revise what I just mentioned. Sup pratyas are attached to the pratipadikas. You get the nama padam, also called subantam. Sup plus antam is equal to subantam. So you get a subantam. How many sup pratyas? 21. They are divided into 7 sets. Each set gets 3 pratyayas. These sets are commonly known as vibhakti. Prathama vibhakti, dvitiya vibhakti up to saptami vibhakti. Now it is important to understand that the word vibhakti is not given to the set. It is given to individual pratyaya inside that set. So su is prathama vibhakti, au is also prathama vibhakti, jas is also prathama vibhakti. Therefore we extract that word prathama out and say su au jas is prathama vibhakti. So many times students have this confusion that is it the row, the samuha, the group of these 3 pratyayas that is called prathama, dvitiya, tritiya. So that is a general understanding, but in reality, individual pratyaya gets the samnya like prathama, dvitiya, tritiya and so on. So these 7 ganas, by gana we mean the individual pratyayas in them, get the names prathama, dvitiya and so on up to saptami. Each gana has 3 different pratyayas. We consecutively call them ekvachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam. So it's basically a way to identify any particular pratyaya uniquely. So you pinpoint to any pratyaya, say bhyas, and what is the address? The address is chaturthi bahuvachanam. So this way you can give the address to all these pratyayas. Where are these pratyayas used? The ekvachana pratyayas are used to indicate ekatva, the property of being one. I'm going to elaborate on it in a few slides. The dvivachana pratyayas are talking about the property of dvitva, being two. And bahuvachana is used to indicate the property of many. At this point, understand that we typically have this word called aneka. In Marathi, for example, or Hindi, you have ekavachanam versus anekavachanam. In Sanskrit, we do not use the word aneka. We use the word aneka, but we don't say aneka vachanam. We say ekavachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam. What is the difference between aneka versus bahu? Aneka is two or more. So na ek is aneka, not one, means two or more. Whereas bahu is always three or more. So ekvachanam is one, dvivachanam is two, and bahuvachanam is three or more. Whereas aneka is two or more. That is a critical difference. That's why we don't say aneka vachanam in Sanskrit, we say bahuvachanam. So that bahuvachanasya pratyayaha, the jasa, shasa and so on are used to indicate three or more of those entities. And sambodhanam is not a separate vibhakti. The pratyayas of the prathama vibhakti, that is the su, au, jas, these pratyayas are used for indicating sambodhanam. Now this is what everybody knows. Starting from the next slide, the unknown land starts up. So the one of the fundamental, places of confusion for students, many times for teachers also, is this relationship between vibhakti on one end. There is a question over here. In Sambodhana, we do see different pratyayas. No, you look at the table in details. There is no line called Sambodhanam. Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami. The same su pratyaya, when used in the prathama, gives a different form, and when used in a sambodhana, gives a different form. So nadi plus su of prathama gives nadi, but nadi plus su of sambodhana, that is prathama again, but tagged as a sambodhana, becomes nadi with a rasva. So during the prakriya, you will have to mention, or there will be specific sutras written by Panini which you use when there is a prathama versus specific sutras which you use when there is a sambodhana. So it is the same pratyaya that gets a different form depending on whether it is prathama or sambodhana, but the pratyaya is same. Okay, let us go ahead. So there is a comment. So the pratyaya is same, but the rupam is different from prathama. Sometimes the rupam is different from prathama, sometimes it is not. So for example, if you take Marut, the Sambodhanam Rupam is also Marut. Prathama Rupam is also Marut. But if you take Nadi or say Muni, the Sambodhana Rupa is different, the Prathama Rupa is different. I'll give you another example. Chaturthi Ekvachanam of Mati. There are two forms, Mataye and Matyai. But there is a same Pratyaya. So one pratipadikam plus one pratyaya can give multiple forms, like you can see in Chaturthi Ekvachanam over here, or like you can see in Prathama versus Sambodhanam. So pratipadikam or any prakriti plus pratyaya can give multiple forms. I'm happy people are asking. These are the things that sometimes get skipped. So please ask questions and I'll explain. I'll stop what I'm discussing and I'll explain. It's okay. We will go slow. It's not an issue. Understanding is more important. Anyway, moving ahead. When people study vibhaktis, there's a very fundamental thing that they confused or they mix up, many times teachers also. It is the concept of karakam. What is a karakam versus what is a vibhakti, and what is the relationship between the two? So lots of introductory books on grammars, even your textbooks, you will see rucha dhatu requires chaturthi, gama dhatu requires dvitiya. So these are approximations. These are like jumping the steps. There is a step of karakam sitting in between, and the vibhakti is closely linked to the karakam, but there is no one-to-one mapping. The concept of karaka has its own complete set of instructions or sutras. The concept of vibhakti has a complete different set of sutras, and there is a many to many mapping, not one to one, many to many mapping. So one karaka can map to multiple vibhaktis, or one vibhakti can be derived from multiple karakas. That is the relationship that I am going to discuss in the next 45-50 minutes. Once you understand that relationship, the concept of vibhaktis and how does it differ from karakas will be completely clear. So let us change the gears a little bit and let us talk about karakas. Just a warning, this will require you to unlearn a few things that you might have already studied. Bear with me. If something is not clear, ask questions. What is a karakam? The classical definition that is given and accepted is kriya janakam karakam. Anything that helps a kriya to be born or a kriya to be executed. So kriyam kartum ye padarthaha upayuktaha. The entities, the objects which are valuable for doing an action are all called karakas of that action. Janaka, say father. Father means what? The one who gives birth. So any entity that helps the kriya to come into existence. So kriya janakam karakam, those entities. So who is a karaka? It is not the words that are karaka. It is the actual objects, the entities. Because a kriya is not a word. Pathati is not a kriya. It is simply pa plus a plus tha plus a plus ta plus e. The action of reading is the kriya. So you have to distinguish between a sequence of letters which we called Anupurvi, a sequence of letters versus the idea behind it. And when you think of that idea, the objects, the entities that help in that particular idea, that particular action are karakas. Karakas are not words, karakas are objects. So, Devadattaha Pakashalayam Agnina Odanam Pachati. Let's take this example. Devadatta is cooking the rice in the kitchen with help of gas or stove, fire. So what is the action over here? The action is the act of cooking. You visualize something. The rice is taken in a bowl, it's washed, it's put on the stove, and so on. So that particular action, who is helping that action to happen? Obviously Devadatta. but also the kitchen. Kitchen is providing a platform for that action to happen. The Agni, the fire, is providing the necessary energy for that action to happen. The Odana itself, they are the ones on which the action is happening. So, all these entities, even if one of them is not there, the action cannot complete. Therefore, all these entities, Devadatta, Pakashala, Agni, Odana, all these objects, all these entities are considered karaka of the action of cooking. Pachana kriyayaha karakani. Let us take some slightly complicated examples. Ramaha Krishnasya gruham gacchati. Rama goes to the house of Krishna. Now, what is the action? The action is action of going. Who is causing that action to exist? It is the Rama, because who is going? And it is the Gruha, it is going to receive Rama. Therefore, Rama and the Gruha, these objects, are directly responsible for the action to happen. The relationship of Krishna with the house, that the house belongs to the Krishna, is irrelevant to the action of going. Whether that house belongs to Krishna or not, whether it belongs to Devadatta, Yajnadatta, the action of going is happening between Rama and Gruha. So the Gruha is related to the Krishna, but the action of going is not related to the Krishna. Krishna is neither going, Ram is neither meeting Krishna. At least from the sentence, it is not like that. Rama is just going to the Krishna. Krishna may or may not be at his home. That's irrelevant. So only Rama and only Gruha are responsible for this particular action to happen, and therefore they are karakas. Krishna is not a karaka because it is not necessary. The existence of Krishna is not necessary for the action to happen. Even if Krishna sells his house to Devadatta, still Ramaha Gruham Gacchati action can still happen. So Krishna is irrelevant. Another example. Ramaha putram drushtva modate. Rama becomes happy on seeing his son. Not necessarily his, any son. Rama becomes, we have to be very explicit. Rama becomes happy upon seeing a putra, son. Now see, this is interesting because even though you see one tingantam over here, there are actually two kriyas. We always see what we said, kriyam kartum. We are looking at actions. Action need not be only given by tinganta. The action is given by the word društva as well. So Ramaha putram društva modate. In this particular sentence, we have actually two actions. The action of seeing and the action of becoming happy. Each of this action will have its own karaka. So let's take one by one. When you take the action of seeing, obviously the Rama is the one who is seeing and Putra is the one which is being seen, whatever. And therefore, Rama and Putra both are karakas of the action of seeing. Therefore, Rama is karaka of Drisha and Putra is also a karaka of Drisha. However, when you talk about Modate becomes happy, it is the Rama who is becoming happy. So obviously Rama is the Karaka for Modate, but Putra has no relationship with being happy. Putra is not being happy. Putra is not seeing Rama. So there is absolutely no relationship of Putra being happy or Putra being related to Modate. Putra is only related to Društva, not to Modate. And therefore, there is only one Karaka for Modate, and that is Rama. So, Rama is the Karaka for both Društva as well as Modate, but Putra is only the Karaka of the Darshana Kriya. Let us take one last example and then I'll take questions. Vishwasya Karta Krishnaha. Lord Krishna is the creator of this world. Now there is no Tinganta over here. But as we said, the Karakas have nothing to do with Tingantas. It is all about the Kriya. So what is the Kriya? Karta, the action of creating, the action of doing, constructing, that's the Kriya. Who is the entity that is related to this Kriya? It is the Krishna who is doing the Kriya. It is the Vishwa which is being created. So Krishna and Vishwa both are Karakas in this context. Therefore, here Vishwa and Krishna dvayoho api karakatvam asti. I took this example specifically because of two reasons. Number one, there is no direct tinganta, but there is a kriya. I wanted to show that. And number two, I have seen some people teaching or some books mentioning that Shashti cannot be used with a karaka and so on. Some weird misunderstanding is there. So I explicitly took an example where you can see a word in the Shashti and it is still a karaka because it is directly related to the kriya. It is causing the kriya to happen. Now let me take question. The question is big, so let me read it. But the sentence Devadattaha Odanam Pachati is also possible. So why is Pakashalayam and Agnina considered absolutely necessary? Are they giving additional information? That is a very correct question. So Devadattaha Odanam Pachati. If you take that particular sentence, then Pakashala and Agni are not in the context, therefore their Karakatva is irrelevant. But we are specifically describing a situation in which the Devadatta enters the kitchen, switches on the fireplace or the gas and cooks the rice. That is the situation that I am describing. That is the reason the statement has been written as Devadattaha Pakashalayam Agnina Odanam Pachati. In this action, who is responsible for this cooking action? All of these four. If we just say Devadatta Odanam Pachati, then Devadatta and Odana are the Karakas because we are not giving any additional information. So it all depends on what is the context that you are speaking about. In the next sentence, the extra context of Krishnasya was irrelevant. That's why it does not get the Karaka information or Karaka property. But in the previous statement, every piece of information that you have added is relevant, so it gets the Karaka Samnya. Next question, doesn't any action happen because that object is in possession of something? Because the house belongs to Krishna, so he is going, or because he is his own son and that's being happy, otherwise he would not. So whatever you are saying over here is assuming extra information. The actual relationship of Kriya, so the relationship of Gamana Kriya doesn't have to directly deal with the Krishna. The intention of Rama might be that because this is the house of the Krishna, that's why I am going. If it was house of Ravana, I will not go. That might be an intention. We are not talking about intentions. We are talking about actual actions. The action of going, taking the left leg and putting it front, taking the right leg and putting it front, or switching on the vehicle and so on. This action has no relationship with Krishna. The action has a relationship with Rama because Rama is the one who is walking. The action has a relationship with Gruha because Gruha is the place where the action ends. That's the destination. So, looking at the action, that's why I am repeating this again and again. Kriya. Focus on the action. Action has a direct relationship with Rama and Gruha. Similarly, the action of being happy has direct relationship with Rama. The intention of being happy might be that he has seen his son and so on. But the actual action has nothing to do with that. What does modate mean? Expanding the cheeks, showing the teeth, making out haha sound, something like that, or being happy, some good hormones being produced. You can describe the action in whatever sensible way you want. Does that action have directly to do anything with the putra? No. It is only to do with Rama. The precursor, the trigger of the action might be the putra. Then there is a question, Vishwasya Karta Krishna Hasti Asmin Vakya Kim? I explained, right? In this particular sentence, again, Vishwasya Karta Krishna means what? Karta is the action of doing, right? To do is the Karta, that's the action of doing. It involves something else as well, but beneath that is the Kru Dhatu. That's why I explicitly wrote over here. Kru Dhatu Nirdishta Kriya Avashyam Vartate. There is a little bit of more Shastra to it. After 4 classes, you will come to know. But kru dhatu nirdishta kriya vartate. Therefore, Krishna and Vishwa are directly related to that, and therefore the karakatva is present. The question is, in Vishwasya Karta Krishna Asti. Very good question. Is Vishwasya directly related to Asti? Now you can tell me it is not related to Asti. When you say Vishwasya Karta Krishna Asti, you have to look at two actions, the action of kru and the action of being. In the action of being, the karakas are Krishna, which is one karaka, and karta, it is another karaka. So karta is also related to being, and Krishna is also related to the action of being. So both of them are karakas on asti. Vishwasya is not a karaka on asti. Very good question. I encourage every one of you to go back, work out certain statements, and think which words are directly related to some other words. That is your karakam. This is a fundamental siddhanta in the Vyakarana Shastra. Kriya Janakam Karakam. There is another definition. I will give it to you. You can write it down. It's not there on the slide. Kriyan Vayi Karakam. Anvayi. Yi rasva asti. Kriyanvayi karakam. Almost the same thing, slight different tinge of meaning is there. We'll not go in the details. But kriyanvayi karakam, anything that has a direct anvaya with the kriya. Kriyanvayi karakam. Iti anya vyakhya api asti. So this is the definition of a karakam, and once this definition is clear, now you will understand that there are exactly 6 karakas defined in Sanskrit Vyakarana. People always ask this, are there only 6 karakas possible practically? The answer is no, you can have 20 different karakas. There will be different languages which will have more than these karakas. In Sanskrit, there are 6 specific karakas defined. What are these karakas? Kartru karaka, karma karaka, karana karaka, sampradana karaka, apadana karaka, and adhikarana karaka. So this is a shloka, this is a karika. Everybody has to memorize this. Karta karma cha karanam, sampradanam tathaiva cha, apadanadhikaranam, ityahuhu. Ahuhu means this is what they are told. Ityahuhu karakani shat. These are the 6 karakas. Karta, karma, karana, sampradana, apadana, adhikarana. Now I know that you all probably know the definitions of this, but I'm still going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you in a slightly different way. Remember what I tell you right now. These are directly taken from either Ashtadhyayi or some advanced books of Vyakarana, and therefore they are precise. So I'll also explain what you know, and then I'll explain a more precise definition which is written on the slide. So let's take quickly one by one. This is not directly related to the sup pratyayas, but this information is required before we go to the sup pratyayas. So kartru karakam, the first karakam, kartru karakam, it is that entity which is independent of doing the kriya. Swatantra rupena. Swatantra does not mean individually. In Devadatta Odanam Pachati, Devadatta cannot do anything individually. But it is on the will of Devadatta to do the cooking. If you take that sentence, Devadattaha Pakashalayam Agnina Odanam Pachati, whose will is actually involved in the action of cooking, it is Devadatta. Pakashala, Agni, their wills, their independentness is not involved. So anything whose will makes the action to happen, who is kind of independent in doing that action. So it is Devadatta who will decide whether I'll use this Pakashala or that Pakashala. It is a Devadatta who will use whether I'll use Chulha or whether I'll use electric Agni or whether actual fire. So whatever. So anybody who is a decision maker, that's the Karta. So Swatantra Rupena Kriyam Karoti doesn't mean independent or individual. Devadatta alone cannot do anything unless there is Agni and Pakashala. But who is a decision maker is called Karta. What is an example? Ramaha Karoti. Rama, the person, understand, not the word. The person Rama, physical, a person that you can see, maybe Sri Ramachandra or maybe some other your friend called Rama, that is karta. You can also use the same say the same statement by saying Ramena kriyate. Rama is karta. Ramasya krutihi. Rama is karta. That is the reason why I took this example on the previous slide. That on previous slide you learned that Rama object is a karaka on the crew action or Vishwasya karta Krishnaha. Now we are saying that the same crew action, the Rama is not just the karaka, but we are becoming more specialized and we are saying it is the kartru karaka. So many times people have this misunderstanding. Karta means prathama, karma means dvitiya, karana means tritiya, sampradana chaturthi. No, absolutely not. Here is a counter example. Kartrukarakam, Rama object is karta in all these three examples, but Rama is in prathama in one statement. Ramena, so tritiya in the second statement. Shashti in the third statement. So the same object, the karta, is represented by three different words, three different sup pratyayas. There is a su pratyaya over here, there is a ta pratyaya over here, and there is a ngas pratyaya over here. That is many to many mapping between the karakas and vibhaktis. I'm going to talk about that in more details in the next few slides. Let's go to the karma karakam. The karma karaka, in English we all know it as an object. It is that entity where you see the action happening, the entity on which the action is happening. So saha padarthaha yatra kriyayaha phalam drishyate. So for example, when we say Ramaha gruham gacchati, the action of going is going to happen on the house. Rama is the one who does the action, but it is the house which receives the Rama. So that's the action, that's the phala, that's the ending point of that particular action. So Ram Karta is the one who is independently executing the action. Independent in the sense through his will. And karma is the one where the action seems to terminate. Terminate in the sense where the action seems to be completed. So Devadattaha Odanam Pachati. Now there may be Pakashala, there may be Agni, whatever. But the cooking action, you only look at the rice and say whether the rice is soft enough, whether it is cooked, whether it is half cooked, uncooked, and so on. So the Odana is your karma. So that entity on which the result of the kriya is seen, kriyayaha phalam drishyate, that entity is called karma. So you have Ramaha Odanam Pachati. Odana is the entity on which the moistness or softness is going to be seen. Ramaha Gramaya Gacchati. This is a valid prayoga, not Ramaha Gramam Gacchati. Ramaha Gramaya Gacchati. The Grama house is, sorry, the village is an entity where Rama goes. Ramena Odanaha Pachyate. Same sentence written in the Karmani Prayoga. Odanasya Pakaha. So now you can see the same karma is being written using the Dvitiya pratyaya, Chaturthi Nye pratyaya, Prathama Su pratyaya, and Shashti Nas pratyaya. We can give other examples also. Now this is where I want to digress a little bit. This will be required in the second part of class today, the thing pratyayas, but let me just quickly mention. So the karma karaka, the action, the phala of the kriya, sometimes is on the karta itself. So let's take this example. Ramaha odanam pachati. The karta is Rama and the phala is on odana. So two different objects, simple life. But take the previous example of putram drishtva Ramaha modate. What is the action of modate means? Laughs. So becomes happy. Good hormones are secreted, whatever. And who is the doer of that action? It is the Rama. So that's the Karta. Who gets the phala of that action? It is Rama again. Because Rama is the one who is becoming happy. There is no third entity who is directly getting the phala. Putra may or may not be happy, or Putra may not even know that father is seeing him. So Putra is irrelevant. Rama is himself becoming happy. Therefore, there are such dhatus. Or for example, Ramaha hasati, Ramaha krandati, Ramaha nidrati, sleeps. In all these cases, there is no karma possible because the phala of the kriya sits on the karta. These are the well-known akarmaka dhatus in the dhatu patha. So what is akarmaka? Akarmaka dhatu is a dhatu where the phala goes on the karta. There is no karma possible. What is a sakarmaka dhatu? Phala goes on a separate entity called karma, like Ramaha Odanam Pachati. So that's a separate entity called Odana. Therefore, Pacha Dhatu is a Sakarmaka. A separate entity for the phala is possible. Akarmaka means phala goes back on the karta. That is like Ramaha Modate. These are the akarmaka verbs. We'll talk about them in the Ting Pratyaya section once again. The third is Karana Karaka. Most of you know Karanam as an instrument, Sadhanam. Fair enough, nothing wrong. But here is a more precise definition given by a great grammarian called Bhartruhari. He says, Bhartruhari is the same Bhartruhari of Niti Shataka, whom you might be aware of. So that's the same Bhartruhari who also did extensive work in Vyakarana Shastra, and he gave this definition: Saha padarthaha yasya prayogasya samaptau kriyayaha samaptihi bhavati. An entity is called karana if when you stop using that entity, the action ends, or when the action ends, you stop using that entity. So there must be the terminal point of the action is decided by that entity. This is a more precise definition. You will understand why. Ramaha hastena likhati. Now, obviously, by our traditional definition, hasta is the instrument, it is the helper, so it is a karana. There is nothing wrong with that definition. That is a definition that Panini Maharshi also uses. But a more precise definition is this: as long as the hand is working, the action of writing is there. As soon as hand stops working, writing stops. So the terminal point, the ending point of the action is denoted by that particular entity, which is the karana. Now let's take this complex example of Pakashalayam Agnina Odanam Pachati. Even after the cooking kriya, the Pakashala will still continue to exist. Odana will continue to exist. Rama will continue to exist. But when is the cooking action considered to be over? When the Agni is switched off. When you say the Agni is switched off, now in that example, we are going to assume that as soon as the fire is switched off, that cooking is done. If you need the rice to stay like that and cook on fumes or vapor and so on, that's not agnina pachati. Then you use that a different sentence over there. Agnina pachati means the cooking action is directly caused because of fire. Once the fire is stopped, fire does not necessarily mean the flames. Heat is what we are talking, because if you are using an electric oven, there is no question of fire. So as long as that heat is there, the Pachana Kriya continues. When the heat stops, the Pachana Kriya stops. Therefore, Agnina is the Karana over there. Krishnaha Shakatena Gachati. While or till the time the vehicle is going, only then the action of going is there. As soon as he gets out the vehicle, or as soon as the vehicle stops moving, you cannot say he is going. So, Shakatena Gachati. Shakatena is Karanam. Now you interpret it in the same way. Shastrena Yudhyati. Fights with a weapon. As soon as the weapon is kept down, the fighting is over. Netrabhyam Pashyati. As soon as the eyes are closed, the action of seeing is stopped. So in this way, the Karana is the entity whose termination, I can actually show this to you. There is a, this is a little bit advanced, but it's good sometimes you study a little bit advanced over here. This is a book called Vakya Padiyam, which is by Bhartruhari. And if I recollect this shloka, Kriyaya Parinishpattau, where is that? Kriyaya parinishpattau. There's some parinishpattir. Look at this. Kriya. It's a very simple shloka. I'll explain. Kriyayaha parinishpattihi yad vyaparad anantaram. Parinishpatti means completion. Yad vyaparat means after the usage of that entity. Yasya padarthasya prayogad anantaram kriyayaha samaptihi bhavati tatra karanatvam smrutam. That is the place where the karana is to be considered. The normal definition is also okay, but as I mentioned, let's try to be a little bit technically more correct. There is a question over here. The other examples of Odana you gave, which are in the fourth, first, and sixth vibhaktis, are still karma karakas. Absolutely. So, for example, Ramena Odanaha Pachyate, Odana object is the karma karaka. Odanasya Pakaha, Odana object is the karma karaka. Gramaya Gachati, Grama object is the karma karaka. That is exactly what I am trying to say. Forget about the fact that karta is prathama, karma is dvitiya, karana is tritiya, sampradana is chaturthi. That's, you have been completely misled throughout your Sanskrit education. Absolutely break that bond. I am explicitly giving these examples. There is a many to many mapping. So you have karta, you have karma, you have karana, you have sampradana, and you have prathama, dvitiya, tritiya, chaturthi. We'll keep prathama aside. But each of these probably maps to multiple others. So there is a many to many mapping over here. So there is a question, how do we justify karmani dvitiya? This is, you are like jumping 10 steps ahead. You need to learn 10 different things before you go to karmani dvitiya. So let's park that question. The karmani dvitiya sutram and so on basically says that dvitiya can be used for karma karaka. It doesn't say dvitiya has to be used for karma karaka. So that's the simple answer that I can give at the moment. Rama's Kriti and Odana's Paka. Very nice question. Rama's Kritihi and Odana's Paka. What is the difference? Very good question. Kruti is the action which is done by Rama. Paka is the action which is done on Odana. So that's the difference. Odanasya pakaha can technically mean Odana is doing, but that's not what we are intending, or we don't want to say that. So Odanasya pakaha would mean the paka on the Odana. Rama's Kruti means the Kruti done by the Rama. That's the fundamental difference. In Rama Pratipadikam, there is a root verb Rama, but we are not considering it as a Kriya. What a beautiful question. But in the sentence Vishwasya, Karta we are considering as an action. That is a very nice question. Let's clarify. In case of Ramaha Odanasya Karta, technically Karta means doer. It is not the action. It is the person who is doing the action. However, it involves a kriya inside it. That's why on the previous slide, I was very careful to write this particular point. Karta iti pade kru dhatu nirdishta kriya. So there is a hidden kriya present in the kru dhatu, which is being used over here. But why not do the same thing for Rama? The answer is Rama is indeed derived from the verb Rama, but this particular fact has nothing to do with Pacha Dhatu. If you want to look at Rama in the perspective of the Rama Dhatu, then that particular relationship might be exploited. But when you are looking Rama in context of the Pacha Dhatu, the fact that it is coming from Rama is completely useless. It is completely irrelevant. Let's go back to your previous example and explain that again. When you have, which was the Vishwasya Karta. So when you have Vishwasya Karta, the fact that there is a kru action over here is directly related to the Vishwa because the Vishwa is being created. It is directly related to the Krishna because Krishna is the doer of that action. Compare and contrast it with Rama, where the action of Rama has nothing to do with the sentences Ramaha Pachati and so on. Any further questions? I just want to be very honest that we might not be able to finish Ting Pratyas today with this speed. I am going to need 2 hours for soup. but that is okay. Considering understanding is more important than just rushing through and teaching everything. So if there are any more questions, please ask. I was expecting this slide to be over by 10 o'clock or so, or a little before that. Now it's 10:25, but that's okay. So if there are any more questions, ask. We'll see how the time goes. Let's actually at least finish the Suk Pratyas to start with. So we have discussed the Karana Karakam. Let's go to the Sampradana Karakam. Saha padarthaha yasya krute kriya bhavati. For is a very simple meaning to understand for Sampradana Karakam. So Ramaha mitraya patram likhati. He writes the letter for his friend to read. Devadattaha bhikshukaya dhanam dadati. The money is given for or to that particular beggar. So in this particular way, the sampradaya, that's probably one of the easiest one, because you mostly have seen the examples of da verb, which is like 80% of the places where the sampradana is used. That's why it's called dana. The word dana itself is because of that. Sampradana karakam. Mostly it is for the da dhatu, but that's not needed. You can have examples like Ramaha mitraya patram likhati, Ramaha putraya pakam karoti. So he cooks for his son. So anytime you have a for, the the sampradana karaka. I said Chaturthi Vibhakti because this is a unique case where Sampradana is directly related to Chaturthi, but I should not be saying that right now. Let's use the correct word Sampradana Karakam. But Sampradana Karaka is used in these cases, which is the receiver of that action for whom the action, the Kriya is done. The next is Apadana Karakam. सहा पदार्थः यस्मात् अन्य पदार्थस्य पृथक्करणं भवति. So if you have A and some B separating out from A, then A is the apadana. When B separates out from A, that action of separation involves two entities. The entity which is separating out, that's B, that's the karta, and A, it is from whom the separation happens, that's your apadana. So vrukshat phalam patati. From the tree, the fruit falls. Ramaha gruhat nirgachati. Rama goes out of the house. Ganga Himalayat udbhavati. Ganga comes out of Himalaya. So the entity from which somebody else separates is called apadana. And finally, adhikarana. Adhikarana is an entity which is the place of existence of karta or the karma while the action is happening. Read this again. Saha padarthaha yaha kriyayaha samaye. While the action is being done, kartuhu sthanam. It is the place of the karta or karmanaha sthanam. It is the place of the karma. So the place of the karta is called adhikarana. The place of karma is also called adhikarana. Here are examples. Ramaha pakashalayam pachati. Rama is cooking in the kitchen. That's the place where Rama is present. Sorry. That's the place where Rama is present. So this Rama, who is the Kartrikaraka, the place of that Rama, Pakashala, becomes Adhikarana. Similarly, Ramaha sthalyam odanam pachati. Rama cooks the rice in a rice cooker or in a plate or in a pot, whatever. Now, Rama is not himself in the pot, so the previous analogy doesn't work. But who is the karma? It is the odana. Where is the odana present? It is present in the pot. So, the place of existence of karma karaka, that is also adhikarana. So, who is adhikarana? The place of existence of karta and the place of existence of karma. We can have one statement with both of these together. Ramaha mandire kalashe jalam sthapayati. Ram is in the temple. So that's the place where the karta is existing. and the water is being stored in the kalasha. So that's the place where the karma exists. Karma is the jala, karta is the rama. Therefore, mandire, which is the place for karta, and kalasha, which is the place for karma, are both adhikarana over here. There is a question, how to differ the karaka of Ramaha in Ramaha Gramaya Gachati versus Ramaha Mitraya Likhati. Both of them have Chaturthi Vibhakti. So this and similar questions originate from a fundamental misunderstanding that vibhaktis and karakas are related. Vibhaktis and karakas are not related in the sense one-to-one mapping. Vibhaktis and karakas don't have one-to-one mapping. Looking at the vibhakti, you cannot predict the karaka. Looking at the karaka, you cannot predict the vibhakti. You need Panini Sutras and the context to understand that. So in case of Ramaha Gramaya Gachati, what is the meaning of the sentence? In that meaning of particular context, Grama is the receiver of Rama. Grama is the one where the action of going is going to terminate. Therefore, it is the karma. In Mitraya Patram Likhati, it is the Patra which is the karma because Lekhana Karya lies on the Patra. Mitra is simply the entity for which the Patra is being written. So, to understand the meaning, Karakas is all about semantics. What is semantics? It is meanings. Karaka is all about meanings. If you just take a random sentence, Ramaha Gramaya Gachati, unless you understand the meaning, you cannot talk about which is the Karaka in that sentence. Next question. If we say Devadattaha Bhikshukasya Krute Danam Dadati or Devadattaha Bhikshum Prati Danam Dadati, so both of these sentences are correct. When you say Devadattaha Bhikshukasya Krute Danam Dadati, the sentence is correct. However, the Dana Kriya doesn't have direct relationship with Bhikshuka because Bhikshukasya Krute becomes one entity which is then related to the Dadati. So here in this complex sentence, the mathematics of applying karakas will change. Always look at the verb and ask which words or which groups of words are directly related to that kriya. That's your karaka. Indirect relationship does not constitute karaka. That's why Krishnasya gruham, the Krishna part is not karaka. What about time? Ramaha prabhate uttisthati. Ha. Again, this question comes up with a fundamental misunderstanding that anything that is in Saptami will be Adhikarana. Please, I'm telling this again and again. Get rid of that. You say Ramaha prabhate uttisthati. Ask yourself, is prabhate adhikaranam? Is it the place where the karta is present? Is it the place where karma is present? If none of them, then it will not be specifically a adhikarana karaka. So at this moment, I am not teaching the application of each of the vibhaktis. That's not what I intend to teach in this course. There are 70, 75 sutras in Ashtadhyayi for that. We cannot do that. Only thing I want to focus, I want you all to focus right now is the concept of karakas and get this point straight across that karakas are not directly related or there is no one-on-one mapping with vibhaktis. Vibhaktis can be used in multiple other cases. Krishnaya Namaha. There is a Chaturthi over here. Is that a Sampradana? Possibly not or definitely not. So you do not have, anytime you see a Chaturthi, it's a Sampradana. Anytime you see a Tritiya, it's a Karanakaraka. It's not like that. Understand, Karakas are on the objects. The Karaka is any entity that is directly related to the action. Okay, what next? How can we explain Karaka in the above sentence? In Devadattaha Bhikshum Pratidanam Dadati. Let's take one example of Devadattaha Bhikshum Pratidanam Dadati. Devadattaha Danam and Dadati. This is the central sentence. So Devadattaha and Danam are the Karakas. Bhikshum Prati, the Prati is an avyaya which directly connects with Bhikshu. So Bhikshu gets a Dvitiya because of Prati. It is not directly related to the Dadati in this sentence. So here we do not have the Karakatva on Bhikshum Prati. How Vrukhat should be highlighted instead of Phalam? What? Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. Okay, let me fix it right away. Somebody pointed out a typing mistake over here. He says Vrukshat should be highlighted instead of Phalam. You're right. Let's fix that. And then one of the previous slides, there was also another typing mistake that I noticed. Where was I missed? Aupadeshik dhatu here. Okay. Anything? Any other questions? Hopefully this was something new, because something more new is going to come now, and hopefully you're not saturated. So let's go a little ahead. Now comes the crucial question. What is the relationship between these karakas and these sup pratyayas? If you have understood that there is no one relationship, and if you have understood that it is not simple as looking at the vibhakti and talking about the karaka, then at least you are with me so far. Now we will learn the actual relationship, how to explore and go along with that relationship of karaka and sup pratyayas. Before we understand this relationship, I want to teach one more word, very powerful word. Powerful, there is a pun on that word here. Karakanam nirdeshaha shaktihi iti shabdena kriyate. In Vyakarana Shastra, we also use the word shakti to indicate karakas. Please don't send personal messages to me. Please ask everyone. The question is Ramaha Gramaya Gachati. Here karma will have Dvitiya. Who told you karma has Dvitiya? I am from the bottom of my throat, I am telling again and again that there is no direct relationship between Karakas and Vibhaktis. Ramaha Gramaya Gachati. The Grama object is the phala of the Gamana Kriya. Therefore, it is karma. Forget about vibhaktis. There is no relation. This is exactly why I taught this. I brought up this concept of karakatvam. That anytime people think karakas, they talk vibhaktis, or anytime they see vibhaktis, they talk karakas. They are different things, completely different things. So in Ramaha Gramaya Gachati or Devadattaha Gramaya Gachati, Gramaya is a karma. There is a separate sutram in Ashtadhyayi where Chaturthi will be given. So Panini has a bunch of 70 sutras over there where he will say, for such and such karma use Dvitiya, for such and such karma use Tritiya, for such and such karma use Chaturthi. Like that he will say for every karaka. So there will be a one-to-one mapping. We are not learning that, but that's how the Sanskrit Vyakarana is organized. Okay, let us move ahead. As I mentioned, the Karakas are also called as Shakti. The word Shakti is used to indicate Karaka. Alternate, interchangeably. So when we say Ramaha Karta, actually what it means is Rame Kartrutva Shakti Asti. This is actually explained in commentaries in a very beautiful way. Let's take this example. Ramaha Odanam Pachati. Ramaha Odanam. Very simple example, okay? Who is the Karta? The Rama person, object is the Karta, not the word. Rama person is the Karta. Why is he Karta? He is doing the action of cooking. But Rama is not going to do cooking 24 by 7. He will probably sleep, he will go play, study, and so on. So, is he Karta during those times? Obviously not, because he is not doing the action of cooking. He is Karta only when he is in that kitchen with that odana fire and so on and doing the cooking. So, what is something that is specially happening to Rama because of which we suddenly start calling him Karta at 9:30 in the morning where he is starting to cook, and the same Rama is not Karta at 11 o'clock in the morning where he is going to school or college, whatever. So, in order to answer such a cryptic question, the grammarians say there is an invisible power called Shakti that enters into Rama at that 9:30, because of which Rama will do the cooking, and that Shakti is called Kartrutva Shakti. And when that cooking is over, the Shakti will go away, and then the Rama will be Rama. It's just like a very simple example. When a person wears a white coat, he is a doctor. When he removes the white coat, is the same person, but then he may be a husband, a father, son, whatever. But when he wears the white coat, he is a doctor. Is exactly like that, that some invisible Shakti, there is a detailed discussion about this in advanced top books on the Vyakarana Shastra. We don't need to go in there. We just need to understand that this is a term that is used interchangeably. So, Ramaha Karta Asti means what? There is a Kartutva Shakti which is present in the Rama. Who has the Kartutva Shakti? The object, the person called Rama has the Kartutva Shakti. Not the letters R, A, M, A, but the entity called Rama has the Kartutva Shakti. And now comes the Sup Pratyayas. The entity called Rama has the Kartrutva Shakti, and this entity, because you cannot keep on drawing stick figures like this everywhere, so this particular entity is shown in the words using the letters Rama. This is called Anupurvi. In English, it is called spelling. In Sanskrit, it is called Anupurvi. Anupurvi means a sequence of letters R plus A plus M plus A. That's Anupurvi. What is the Anupurvi? Anupurvi is a sequence of letters used to indicate an object. So a Rama object is being indicated by the Anupurvi R, A, M, A. So far, so good. In this way, every object, say ghata, pata, every object has an anupurvi, which is basically a word in the language. Now understand this. When Rama is becoming the karta, the kartrutva shakti enters Rama. Now Rama is being shown, the stick figure Rama is being shown with the anupurvi ra, ama, a. How will we show the Kartrutva Shakti that ends in a Rama? So, in order to add that Kartrutva Shakti in Rama, we add the Sup Pratyaya on that word. So, let's say Ramena, Ramena Gamyate, Ramena Pachyate. So, I am adding a Sup Pratyaya called Ta on the word Rama to indicate this extra Kartrutva Shakti that has entered Rama. So Rama is a Pratipadikam indicating the actual object Rama. Rama plus Ta is that Rama with the Kartrutva Shakti. Somebody is asking, is the word Kartutva Shakti used by Bhartruhari? Yes, it is used by Bhartruhari. Everywhere he will say, somewhere over here, I think multiple times he'll use this word. So Shakti is the word that Vaiyakarnas use to indicate this particular concept of Karakatva. So Padarthe Vidyamanam Karakatvam Ityukte Karaka Shaktim. There is a small, let me read the question because there is a small mistake in the question. The question says Kartru Karakam is equal to Kartrutva Shakti. That's not correct. Kartru Karakatvam is equal to Kartru Shakti. Kartru Karakam is Rama object. Kartru Karakatvam, what makes it Karta? That is the Kartrutva Shakti. But that's a minor detail. Basically, Karakanam Nirdeshaha, the indication of Karakas is by the word Shakti interchangeably. So you can say Ramaha Karta Asti, Rame Kartrutva Shakti Asti. So you have to use a Saptami over here. Why? Because the Kartrutva Shakti enters into the Rama. Rama becomes the Sthana. Remember how Adhikarana is to be discussed? So that's an Adhikarana. So Rama is the Sthana of that Kartrutva Shakti. Therefore, Rame Kartrutva Shakti Asti is the Prayoga that we do. And in order to indicate that Kartrutva Shakti, the Sup Pratyaya is added. So let me repeat that. You have a simple quiet Rama, you use the Pratipadikam Rama over there. When the Kartrutva Shakti enters, you add a Ta Pratyaya to say Ramena Gamyate and so on. I have given a few examples on the slide to make this point very clear. So Ramaha Gruham Gachati. In this particular sentence, there is this particular Padartha, the Gruha Padartha. Explicitly reason why I actually put a diagram over there. Because it is the object in your mind. Gruha Padartha. That Padartha has a Karma Shakti for the Gamana Kriya. In order to indicate that Karma Shakti, you first locate the Anupurvi, the word for the Gruha Padartha. So the word for this Padartha is Garuha. And in order to indicate that Karma Shakti, you add the Pratyaya on the top of it. So the Pratyaya is added to indicate the Kartrutva Shakti, Karma Shakti that is present in Gruha in the context of the action of going. So let us repeat this. Ramaha gruham gacchati. In this particular sentence, the gruha object has a karma shakti. In this karma shakti, in this gruha object, whatever karma shakti is present, that karma shakti is indicated by the pratyaya, creating finally gruham as the final word. Somebody smart person actually wrote the verse in the Vakyapadyam. Ekameva yadamnatam bhinnam shakti vyapashrayat aprathaktvepi shaktibhya prathaktveneva uchyate. I don't know what is this, but this doesn't seem to be related to Karaka Prakaranam. Anyway, whatever. So let's take another example, or let's elaborate on this first. The Gruha Padartha has a Karma Shakti. When Gruha Padartha has the Karma Shakti, that Karma Shakti is indicated by. Give me 1 minute. Anyway, we'll talk about that later on. The Karma Shakti present in that particular Gruha Padartha is indicated using the Ama Pratyaya added on the Gruha word. So you have Gruha plus giving Gruham. Let's take another example. Vrukshebhyah phalani patanti. The fruits fall from the trees. So you have vrukshebhyah. So many trees are there, 3 or more. Many trees are there. In those trees, the objects, there is the apadana shakti associated with the action of falling. In order to show that apadana shakti, you have the anupurvi, you have the pratipadikam called vriksha, which will only indicate that object. But when the apadana shakti is entering that object, or when the apadana shakti has entered that object, how will you learn or talk about that apadana shakti? Add the panchami ekvachanam or bahuvachanam in this case, because there are many trees. So add the panchami bahuvachana pratyaya on that vriksha to indicate that apadana shakti. So here we have vriksha padarthe apadana shakti asti. Therefore vriksha shabdat bhyas pratyaya vidhiyate. This is extremely important that you have a one-to-one mapping at 2 levels. There is a mapping of this particular object with the pratipadikam. And then when the Shakti enters into that particular object, you associate it with the appropriate pratyaya. So what is this pratyaya doing? Is it adding any new meaning? No. It is only expressing the Shakti present in the Vriksha. Extremely crucial point. What is Bhyas doing? Bhyas is not adding the Shakti. Shakti is present in the Vriksha. The Bhyas Pratyaya is indicating that Shakti on the Vriksha object. So simple Vriksha object, you say Vriksha. As soon as the Apadana Shakti enters the Vriksha object, Bhyas Pratyaya only decorates or only shows that Shakti. Simple example, white coat doesn't give a medical degree. White coat only shows the medical degree. You must have the medical degree first and then you put the white coat, which is an indicator of the medical degree. In exactly the same way, Bhyasa does not give any new Shakti, it only indicates the Shakti present in the Vriksha object. Similarly, Ama Padartha only indicates the Shakti present in the Gruha object, and therefore all the sup pratyayas, they do not give any artha, they only indicate the Shakti which is directly present in that object, and therefore sup pratyayas are dyotakaha. Out of all the 7 types of pratyayas, the sup pratyayas, all 21 of them, are simply indicators. They simply swarthika pratyayas. The meaning present in the vriksha is being highlighted. So they are indicators, they are dyotaka pratyayas. They are not vachaka pratyayas. They will not give absolutely any new meaning. Whatever meaning was already present, you have a tree and a new Shakti is entering that tree. That Shakti is simply being shown by the Bhyas pratyaya. It is a dyotaka pratyaya. Somebody wants to see the previous slide, I can show. Don't write down, the video is going to be made available. If you have any questions on this slide, ask, but don't spend your time in writing down. I want your full attention over here. Okay, let's go ahead. So supratyayas are indicators, supratyayas are dyotakas. So let us elaborate. Ekaha eva devadatta padarthaha. There is only one devadatta object. But sometimes Kartrutva Shakti will enter, sometimes Karma Shakti will enter, sometimes Sampradana will enter, sometimes Adhikarana will enter, sometimes Apadana will enter. How will you distinguish? In order to distinguish that, for example, you wear a white coat, you are a normal doctor. You wear a green dress, you are a whatever surgeon. So different powers have to be indicated in different manners. In order to do that, you have all those supratyas provided in the language. Therefore, in the Devadatta Padartha, when the Kartrutva Shakti enters, when Devadatta is cooking in the kitchen, when the Kartrutva Shakti enters in the Devadatta, we use the Ta Pratyaya. I am just giving an example over here. We use a Ta Pratyaya, Tritiya Ekvachan or Tritiya Dvivachan, Bahuvachan, whatever. You create a form Devadattena Kriyate. You have the Ta Pratyaya indicating the Kartrutva Shakti. Devadatta, when it gets a Karma Shakti. So Ramaha Devadattam Pashyati. Vayam Devadattam Pashyamaha. Devadatta is a karma over there. In order to indicate the karmatva in the Devadatta, you use the ama pratyaya on the word Devadatta. So you have a Devadatta. Devadatta has a karma shakti. On the other side, you have a word called Devadatta. You add an pratyaya to indicate that karma shakti. So, for indicating karma shakti in the same Devadatta. So, who is not changed? Devadatta is not changed. Therefore, the Pratipadikam in both cases is the same Devadatta. Who is it changed? The Shakti is changed. So, in order to indicate the Kartrutva Shakti, we will use Ta. In order to indicate the Karma Shakti, we will use Am. Am is just an example. Panini will give multiple other pratyas. I am just giving an example over here that the Ta pratyaya in Devadattena Kriyate indicates karma. The pratyaya in Devadattam Pashyamaha indicates the Ta pratyaya indicates the karta. The pratyaya indicates the karma. Few more examples. The Devadatta object can also get Sampradana Shakti. Ramaha Devadattaya Dadati. So that's the Sampradanatva. For indicating that Sampradana Shakti, we use the Chaturthi Pratyaya. Again, this is an example. Don't always associate the Karakas with the Vibhaktis. I am basically showing you the need of Vibhaktis. Why do you want to add a Vibhakti? Because the word Devadatta was happily expressing the original Devadatta. But how are you going to express the new energy that comes in the Devadatta? That's the Ne Pratyaya. So, to indicate the Sampradana Shakti, a Sup Pratyaya is being added over here. Same object, different Pratyaya. Similarly, for Apadana Shakti, you add another Pratyaya. Devadattat Svikaromi and so on. So, in this particular way, the same object, different energies, different pratyayas. That's how the sup pratyayas are used in our language. Any questions so far? We have 3 more slides to finish the sup pratyayas. So I don't think I'll teach ting pratyayas today, but we will go over the remaining 3 slides. Before that, I'll give a minute. I'll wait for say 30 seconds. Go over this. If there are any questions, Please ask. Let's actually take around 2 or 3 minutes of break, and because I still have three more slides and I want there's some little bit of strong material over there, so let's meet at say 10:58 and we will continue at 10:58. I'm here only. I'm happy to answer all the questions, but you can take a small break and we will resume at 10:58. There is a question which says, so every Shabda has all these seven energies, and according to the Vakya, the Pratyaya manifests that Shakti. Now we have understood it. So every, not Shabda, every object is capable of getting the seven energies. And according to the Vakya, you have to understand which energy it is and use the corresponding Supratyaya as told by Panini Maharshi to indicate that Shakti. Very good. That's exactly the correct understanding. The only minor change is that every object has the energies. No textbook will teach you this. This is fundamental, however, sadly missed out. Anyway, I'll wait for around 2 more minutes. Feel free to go back, come, take a small break, and if there are questions, I'm here to answer your questions. Okay, let us resume the discussion on the Supratyas once again. I have three more slides to discuss and then we will stop for today. I don't think teaching Ting Pratyas today is a wise thing. We should learn and we should take time to digest things that we have learned. Okay, let us move ahead. Now, out of all these various karakas, I want to focus on two very important karakas called Kartru Karaka and Karma Karaka. Why? Because these are the places where there is a significant amount of misunderstanding, significant amount of confusion among students, specifically with respect to the Prathama Vibhakti. So that's the point I want to elaborate now. Let us talk about Kartrukarakam and Karmakarakam. Please be aware, almost everything that you have learnt in your textbook so far is going to be collapsed. Pay close attention. Kartrukarakam. There is a rule in Ashtadhyayi which says that mainly for Kartrukarakam, you must use the Tritiya Vibhakti. It is not hard and fast rule, not always. Mukhya Rupena. Shashti can also be used. We have seen Krishnasya Kritihi and so on. Shashti there are some examples. But specifically when you use a Tinganta, in Krishnasya Kritihi there is a Krudanta, so we will keep that aside. Specifically when you use a Tinganta, the Kartrukaraka should be indicated by the Tritiya Vibhakti. Therefore, Ramena Granthaha Pathyate. In this particular sentence, there is an action of reading. Rama is the doer of that action. Rama is doing the Pathana Kriya. Rama is Karta over here. Karta is indicated by Tritiya Vibhakti. The Pratyaya for Tritiya Vibhakti is Ta. So you say Rama plus Ta, that's the Kartrutva Shakti indicator, finally giving you Ramena. So there is a Tritiya Vibhakti used for the indication of Karta. Now you are going to say you are doing cheating, you used Karmani Prayoga. Let's do a simple Prayoga. Of course, let's do the simple Prayoga. That's where the confusion starts. Ramaha Pachati. In this sentence, the Kartrutva Shakti present in the Rama is not indicated by the Su Pratyaya. When you say Rama plus Su, giving you Ramaha, is the Rama object Karta? Yes, 100% it is Karta. There is no question about it. But is that Kartrutva Shakti present in the Rama being indicated by Supratyaya? You might say yes, Panini says no. Su pratyaya does not indicate the kartrutva shakti. Let me explain this once again. When you have, say, for example, Rama, and you want to talk about the action of cooking, and you want to say Rama is the doer of this action of cooking, you can add a ta pratyaya. If you add a ta pratyaya will indicate the kartrutva shakti entering into Rama. You will create a form called Ramena and you will generate a sentence called Ramena Pachyate. So far, so good. But you are saying, no, no, not Pachyate. I want to use Pachyati. You say, what I want to use? I want to use a simple statement called Pachyati. So then what is the word aligned with Pachyati? Ramaha. So then you ask, it is the same Rama, it is the same Kartrutva Shakti, but this Kartrutva Shakti, Panini says, at this point in time is not indicated by the Supratyaya. It will be indicated by Ta, but not by Su. So now this is enough confusing, but then it raises two fundamental questions. Why is it like that? Why special treatment on Su? Why different treatment on Ta? So we are going to see it in the Ting Pratyaya discussion. Not today, we will see that in the Ting Pratyaya discussion. I wanted to teach it today, but we can't. We don't have time. So in the Ting Pratyaya discussion. More important question is, if that Su Pratyaya is not indicating the Kartrutva Shakti, then why are you adding it? Because all other pratyayas, the supratyaya, the other ta, nge, and so on, all these were added to show certain shaktis. So why are you adding supratyaya if you are not going to show the kartrutva shakti in Rama? So that will also we'll see in next class. So here are two open questions. I could have given you the answers right now, but the clear answers to these questions will require understanding of the Ting Pratyayas. So we will defer these answers till the next class. So what we have studied is that Su Pratyaya, the Prathama Vibhakti Pratyaya, is a special Pratyaya. It will not indicate the Karaka. The Karaka is indicated by other Pratyayas like Ta. Specifically, the Kartru Karaka is not indicated by Su, it is indicated by Ta. And who will indicate the Kartru Karakatva? For the next class, you have to wait. Why is Su being added? For the next class, you have to wait. Similarly, Karma Karaka. कर्मकारकस्य निर्देशार्थम द्वितीया विभक्ति प्रयुज्यते. When you have this house, Ramaha gruham gacchati, there is actually the gruha object and the karma shakti is entering that gruha object. You will use the pratipadikam called gruha and you will use the pratyaya on that pratipadikam because is the dvitiya vibhakti pratyaya. And for karma karaka, mainly dvitiya use, not all, not always. We have seen examples like Ramaha Gramaya Gacchati. We have seen the examples like Odanasya Pakaha. So this is more or less on the maximum examples. So that's the answer to, partial answer to somebody's question. What is Karmani Dvitiya doing? So Karmani Dvitiya is telling you that please use Dvitiya unless I tell you something else. So karma karakasya nirdeshartham, there is a dvitiya vibhakti used and therefore in this particular example, Ramaha grantham patati, grantha has a karma energy, karma shakti, the object, the book has the karma shakti that is being represented by applying the pratyaya on the karma karaka, on the word grantha. And in the same reverse, when you are saying Ramena Grantha Pathyate, there is a mysterious Supratyaya appearing. So now this Supratyaya will not indicate karma. Supratyaya indicates no karaka at all, is the Siddhanta. Why such a weird Siddhanta? We will learn, but you have to wait. So su pratyaya does not indicate this particular karma karaka. Grantha object, does it have karma karaka? Obviously it has karma karaka. It is the phala of the patana kriya. Rama object, does it have kartrukaraka? Obviously it has kartrukaraka. But what is the difference? The ta pratyaya on the Rama word indicates the kartrutva shakti in Rama. The su pratyaya in the grantha word does not indicate the karma shakti on the grantha object. Kimarthamitadrisham agre pashyama. Agre means I wanted to teach in today's deck only. There is answers in the slide deck today, but we don't have time. Grantha padarthe vidyamanam karmatvam kaha prakati karoti. Who? Because karmatva has to be indicated, right? Otherwise, how will I know it is karma? You have to indicate it in some or the other way. That we'll also see in the next class. So what did we learn right now? The Prathama Vibhakti is extremely special. Prathama Vibhakti, Su, Au and Jas, in all the three in the Prathama Vibhakti, do not indicate Karaka. Karakam naiva prakati kurvanti is the Siddhanta of Vyakarana. It does not come from whims and fancies of Panini. Panini sat one day and decided, let's make grammar difficult for students. Let's say su, au just don't indicate karaka. It's not like that. It is a compulsory derivation, a compulsory conclusion from some of the axioms, some of the assumptions, and some of the logical arguments that follow in Vyakarana Shastra. A portion of that I will show you in the next class. The entire detailed argument is definitely out of scope for us, but I will give you enough material so that you are impressed. There are some small places here and there which we will leave. But what is the takeaway message? The Prathama Vibhakti Pratyayas do not indicate a Karaka. This is an extremely important Siddhanta, so I want to mention it again and again through multiple examples. Ramaha Grantham Pathati. Two objects. There is a Rama object and there is a Grantha object. Rama object has a Kartrutva Shakti. So I'm again and again telling, we are not saying that there is no Kartrutva Shakti. We are not saying that there is no Karmatva Shakti. Rama object indeed has a Kartrutva Shakti. The book object indeed has a Karmatva Shakti. The only question is about which Pratyaya, the Supratyaya, is it representing that Shakti? So, Ramaha Grantham Pathati, in this particular statement, Rama has a Supratyaya. That Supratyaya does not indicate the Kartutva Shakti. Grantha has Pratyaya. Is not with Prathama, it is Dvitiya. So, no such restriction on Ama. Ama, all of course, indicates the karma property. Reverse example. Ramena Granthaha Pathyate. If you take the example Ramena Granthaha Pathyate, Grantha in this particular statement, the su pratyaya added on the Grantha does not indicate the karma karaka. The ta pratyaya added on the Rama indicates the kartru karaka. So in this way, the Prathama Vibhakti pratyaya do not indicate the karakas. Now there are two questions that I mentioned. First is, who indicates the karakas, the kartru karaka mainly? Here, who indicates the kartru karaka? Here, who indicates the karma karaka? So that's the question we are going to address in the next class. But there is a more simpler question. In fact, there are two more simpler questions that we will address today. First question is, in case of Ramaha, which is generated using Rama plus Su, if we know that Su is not indicating a Karaka, then why are you adding Su Pratyaya? That is a basic question. Ta and so on, the need is very clear. It is indicating Karaka. But why are you adding Su Pratyaya if it is not indicating a Karaka? So the answer is very simple. Prathama Vibhaktehe Pratyayaha Kimartham Prayoktavyaha. Why you want to use the Prathama Vibhakti? The answer is that you cannot use a raw pratipadika in a sentence. Apadam na prayunjita. I explained this statement in the last class. There was also homework about this. Apadam na prayunjita. Anything that is not a namapada or a kriyapada cannot be used in a sentence. So even though Rama as a Pratipadika indicates the meaning of that Prabhu Ramachandra, still it is not a pada. It has to be, it cannot be used in a sentence. It has to be converted into a pada before it can be used in the sentence. And that supratyaya basically creates that particular, fulfills that particular requirement of converting a pratipadikam to a padam so that it can be used in a sentence. Now let's go slow over here. When you are adding the ta pratyaya in Rama, Ramena and so on, when you are indicating adding a ta pratyaya in Rama, ta pratyaya is actually doing two things. First, it is indicating the Kartrutva Shakti present in the Rama. And second, it is also generating a pada because it is a supratyaya. Supratyayas give a nama pada. So it is also generating a pada. So that particular generation of the pada is needed so that Ramena can be used in a sentence. Simple Rama cannot be used in a sentence. A padam na prayunjita. So a pada has to be created. Rama plus ta will generate a pada and that will be used in a sentence. But along with creating a pada, ta is also doing an additional action of indicating the kartrutva energy being present in Rama. So it's a double usage pratyaya. One, it is creating the pada. Second, it is indicating the energy. For the supratyaya, the energy present in the Rama, the Kartrutva energy, is not being indicated by the supratyaya. So the only second karya remains creation of a pada. That's also valuable karya because simply Rama as a pratipadika cannot be used in a sentence. So the pratyaya of the prathama vibhakti are used to create a pada. But then why only Prathama? Why not Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi? The answer is very simple. If you add Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, there is a problem of other karaka getting indicated. So Dvitiya, as I mentioned, will be used for karma. Chaturthi will also be used for karma somewhere. Shashti is also used for karma somewhere. So other karakas have this danger of other energy getting expressed even if they don't want. The first line, see how brilliantly these pratyas have been designed. The first line, su au jas, is kept as a separate line for all those cases where only a pada needs to be generated without explicitly showing that karaka energy. So the prathama vibhakti pratyaya, su, au and jas are used to only create the pada. And then the second question, if the Prathama Vibhakti does not indicate a Karaka, then what is actually it indicating? It is making a pada, that is fair enough. But what is actually it indicating? So it is not indicating anything new. It is repeating the meaning of the Pratipadikam. So the Siddhanta in the Vyakarana Shastra is that this stick figure Rama, it whatever you understand just by looking at that stick figure, same meaning is imparted by Supratyaya. So again, it is a Dyotaka. Whatever present is whatever meaning of that Rama, the property of being Rama, like say Sri Ramachandra has a Dhanusha, Mukuta and Pitambara and so on. That mental image that you have, that is the meaning of that Pratipadika, that itself is indicated by the Supratyaya. So what is the difference between Supratyaya and other pratyas like Amata and so on? Amata and so on will indicate the extra energy. They don't indicate the Rama as a Pratipadika because Rama as a Pratipadika is indicated by the Pratipadika itself. You don't need to re-indicate that. But that extra energy which is entering into Rama is not indicated by the Pratipadika Rama. So you add ta pratyaya, pratyaya, whatever to indicate that extra energy. But for Su, even that extra energy cannot be indicated, poor Pratyaya. Therefore, the meaning of the Pratipadika, the Siddhanta in the Vyakarana Shastra says, the meaning of the Pratipadika is retold. Like as if he has no meaning. So the student, for example, if he is unable to answer any question, what typically teachers do, whatever question has been asked to the previous student, same question is asked, at least repeat what he told without using your brain. So same thing is happening with Su over here, that whatever meaning of that Rama Pratipadikam is there, same is being carried ahead with that Su. So that's the Siddhanta. One last slide and then we will conclude. There is a big question over here. Let me read. Sir, I don't know whether this question is relevant to the discussion or not. But in case of derivation of any pada, it starts from the root dhatu. Sarve shabdaha dhatu jaha. But in the case of derivation of any sentence also, does it start from the kriya, like first the kriya and the necessary karakas? Absolutely correct. So anytime you say Ramaha gruham gachati, Ramaha shakatena gruham gachati, you start with gachati. That's what your, what is that method called? Method of writing anvaya. That you start with gachati, akanksha paddhati. And then you keep on asking questions. Kaha gachati Ramaha? Kam gachati, so kutra gachati, gramam gachati, kena gachati, shakatena gachati. So your akanksha paddhati is pulling out karakas. So it's basically you start with the kriya. It can be a tinganta or a subanta. Sorry, it can be a tinganta or a krudanta indicating a kriya. So gatavan. You start with gatavan. It indicates a kriya. Kaha gatavan, kutra gatavan, kena gatavan, and so on. So in Akanksha Paddhati, it's exactly how it's what is over here. You start with the dhatu and kriya and you keep on adding the relevant karakas with the appropriate questions. One last slide is remaining and then we will stop. This last slide is completely disconnect from the previous slides, and there is a reason for that. What happens is that all that I have told you right now is that these 21 pratyas, keep the su just aside, but other than that ta and so on, all these indicate karaka. That's actually not, I mean, while that is correct, it is not a full truth. The full truth is that these pratyayas, the ta and so on, these can indicate karaka, but these can also indicate a bunch of other things which has nothing to do with karaka. So Krishnaya Namaha. Krishna is not the Karaka because there is no action of, I mean, Krishna is not the Sampradana of the Namaha action. There is no action at all. Namaha is an Avyaya. Or say Gruham Pratigachati. So Gruham Dvitya is associated with Prati. Or say Gruham Abhitaha Vrikshaha. So Gruham Dvitya is associated with Abhitaha. Krishnasya Putraha. Krishna has a Shashti, but there is no Karaka Kriya associated over there. So these vibhakti pratyayas, all of them can be used for karakas. That's the primary reason why they are created. But along with that karakas, they are also used for a bunch of other things which has nothing to do with karakas directly or indirectly. So that's what. Let us take a quick look at the other places where the supratyayas are used. So supratyyanam anyani prayojanani. So we are talking about pratyayas. So I am focusing on supratyayas. The main aspect of supratyayas, the real crux was the karakas, which I spent the whole class with. Now just the last slide, we'll talk about some other aspects. Just briefly mention it because there is nothing new. You all just, most of these rules you know. You will just read them in your textbooks. So my goal is not to teach all these relationships, is just to get you started and link what you don't know with what you already know from your textbooks. There is a question over here. If Drushtva indicates the action of seeing, how Namaha does not indicate the Kriya Nama? Very nice. So Drushtva indicates the action of seeing because Drushtva is actually created from the Drusha Dhatu with a Pratyaya that Panini Maharshi has defined. So Panini Maharshi says there is a verb over here, there is an action over here. Namaha or namas to be precise is an avyaya that is defined by Panini, not derivable using the action of nama dhatu. Or for example, Hyashva, whatever, all pratar, all these are avyayas given by Panini. They're given in the list of avyayas in one of the sutras. Therefore, it is not directly related to the nama. You're correct that it seems very close. So, namaha actually indicates the action of doing the namana kriya, but these are the words. Somebody is saying nipatanam. I wouldn't say nipatanam. These are actually the words present in the chadi gana or sarvadi gana. So this is basically the list of avyayas. it's given as one of the avyayas in that particular list. Now there is a question over here. Do we not use the Siddhanta Ekating Vakyam? Yes, we do use the Siddhantam Ekating Vakyam. So anytime you don't see a Kriyapada, you do an Adhyaharaha. So Krishnaya Namaha Asti. Now this might sound very weird, but Krishnaya Namaha Asti means the Namaha action or the Namaha, that concept is being associated with Krishna from my side, is all that you have to use. So you have to do an Adhyara, Krishnaya Namaha Bhavati, for example, not Krishna or Krishnaya Namaha Karoti, something like that. But Krishnaya Namaha Karoti is grammatically incorrect because then Nama, so it's a little complex, we can keep that aside. But Krishnaya Namaha Bhavati is a random verb you have to use. Okay, so what I was talking is that these supratyas like su, aujas, out, shas and so on, these pratyayas have main purpose as the karaka, but then there are bunch of other purposes, nothing related to karaka, and I will just quickly list these down. So first is relationship between objects. Understand what is karaka? Karaka is the relationship of object with action. So Ramaha pachati, Pakashalayam pachati. The relationship of object with action is karaka. A relationship of object with another object without having any action in the picture. Krishnasya gruham. So that's a relationship between one object called Krishna and other object called Gruha, even to indicate that relationship. Now there is no karakatva because there is no action. So even to indicate that relationship, you use supratyas, mainly shashti. So Ramasya gruham nagare asti. There is a Rama object and there is a Gruha object. In order to indicate the relation, Rama object gets the Shashti. Now, why only Rama object? Why not Gruha object? There are little bit complicated questions you will learn as the as your study in Ashtadhyayi increases. But for now, the Rama word gets the Shashti Pratyaya to indicate the relationship between the Rama object and the Gruha object. There is a question, Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha, not the Avyayas are Dhatujaha. Very good question. So you have to understand this. There are things that you have to read between the lines. When I say Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha, what did I always say? This is a Siddhanta put forth by a Vaiyakarana called Shakatayana. Shakatayana puts forth this Siddhanta called Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha. In Panini's frame of reference, he doesn't argue Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha because he is not accepting Unadi or he is not defining or giving, elaborating on the Unadi Pratyas. So if you consider Unadi Pratyas, then Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha. Otherwise, this is a little bit of brittle Siddhanta, not to be used hard and fast. And even if it's to be used hard and fast, Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha does not mean the meaning is straight away carried. Meaning can randomly absolutely change. It only says that for a syntactic derivation, you start with a dhatu. Here is a simple, very simple example. The word go, which indicates cow, gauhu, gavo, gavaha, go word. This is generated by using the gama dhatu and a pratyaya called do. So there is a gama dhatu and there is a pratyaya called do to create the word pratipadikam called go. Now what has cow has to do with gama verb? Is it the only cow that walks? Can other animals or human beings cannot walk? Or is it special walking kriya that is done by cow which is not done by anybody else? Nothing like that. So you cannot directly associate the word go straight away with the verb gama. Meanings are not imparted, only the syntactic level of derivation is imparted. Therefore, that Sarve Shabdaha Dhatuja, we can actually take different class on that particular single statement. So much to talk about that. But for now, understand it's a small light of brittle Siddhanta in the context of meanings. In the syntax world, it is 100% feasible to do Sarve Shabdaha Dhatujaha. Anyway, let's pay attention on this. We are almost 2 hours. Let's finish this slide and we'll stop. So, padartheshu vidyamanasya sambandhasya, the relationship between the objects is indicated by the vibhakti pratyayas. The vibhakti pratyayas are also used in presence of certain words. These are called upapada vibhakti. All of you probably know this. So saha ityasya yoge tritiya, vina ityasya yoge dvitiya, or say abhitaha ityasya yoge dvitiya. So yoge krishnaya namaha, namaha ityasya yoge chaturthi. So any particular vibhakti that is mandated in presence of another word, not directly related to kriya. Always remember, if you have a kriya, it becomes a karaka. Now we are keeping kriya aside. We are talking about many other things. One was sambandha, relationship between objects. Second was presence of certain words. So word like namaha, word like paritaha, abhitaha, and so on. In presence of these words also certain vibhaktis are required. So abhitaha, in the presence of this word, there is an ampratyaya. So these are called upapada vibhaktis. Understand, these are special names. Karaka indicator vibhaktis are karaka vibhaktis. Same vibhakti only. I mean, there are only same 21 pratyas. You are not going outside them. But when they are used to indicate karaka, we say karaka vibhakti. When they are used to indicate the sambandha, we say sambandha vibhakti. When they are used to indicate presence of a certain word, we say upapada vibhakti. So same set of pratyayas, different names are given based on the usage. And finally, pratipadika vibhakti. Remember that su pratyaya, it is not indicating sambandha, it is not indicating any, it is not because of any upapada, it is not because of any karaka, poor fellow, it is only used to indicate the pratipadika. The meaning of Rama, pratipadikasya arthaha, same thing is repeated. So pratipadika is repeated, therefore it is pratipadika vibhakti. So there are some vibhaktis. Tritya is also used in some case. So gramasya durena vanam asti. The jungle is far from the village. Gramasya durena vanam asti. The tritya over here indicates the meaning of dura only. It doesn't indicate anything else. But such a prayoga exists in the language, so Panini has to justify it. So he adds a ta pratyaya and he says this ta pratyaya is not karaka vibhakti, it is not sambandha, it is not upapada, but it is indicating the meaning of dura only and nothing else. So it is pratipadika vibhakti. Pratipadikasya eva arthaha punaha uchyate. The meaning of the pratipadika is repeated. So that's the pratipadika vibhakti. Even Ramaha Gachati, that's the place. Rama has a supratyaya. It does not indicate karaka. It is pratipadika vibhakti. So in this way, the fundamental purpose of the supratyas is karaka, but then you can also have sambandha by the sambandha vibhaktis. You can have upapada vibhaktis indicating a presence of a certain word. You can have pratipadika vibhakti. There is yet another type of vibhakti called karma pravachaniya vibhakti, but I will not talk about that. Similarly, there is some other complicated concept like karma pravachaniya. So five such types are being discussed. Karaka vibhakti number 1, sambandha vibhakti number 2, upapada vibhakti number 3, pratipadika vibhakti number 4, and karma pravachaniya vibhakti number 5. So these are five different sets or categories of the sup or usages of the sup pratyayas, and that's where we complete the discussion of sup pratyayas in our class today. There is a question. So su aujas will continue to indicate the number. Very nice question. So yes, all the sup pratyayas will indicate a number. But again, they are not newly indicating the number. The number, the multiplicity which is present in the original object. So here itself, gruha is only one object. So you use a single pratyaya. There are 5 trees. So you use a vrukshebhyaha. So these pratyayas, they will indicate only 3 levels of multiplicity, ekavachanam, dvivachanam or 3 and plus. They won't indicate the exact number like 4, 5, 6 and so on, but that's also what they definitely indicate. Good question. Is durena a dyotaka pratyaya? Yes, anything that does not give a new meaning is a dyotaka. In durena, the ta pratyaya is repeating the meaning of dura, so it is dyotaka. All supratyayas are dyotakas. There are no supratyayas that are vachaka pratyayas. So with this, I need to take lessons on time management. Asmakam Sup pratyayana adhyanam samaptam. We'll stop here. It's already, God knows how much, 11:30. So we'll 11:33. We'll stop here. We will meet in next week. I will talk about ting pratyas in the next week. I'll wait for say 10, 15 more seconds, 30 seconds. If you have any questions, please ask. If no questions, we will do the Mangala Charanam, which is all the way at the end. See, so many slides I wanted to. I'm too ambitious, isn't it? We'll do the Mangala Charanam and then we will stop. Next week, we will meet at the same time. We will talk about the ting pratyas and probably vikarana pratyas. Let's see if I can club both of them in a single class. Otherwise, we'll have just the ting pratyas in one class. Su aujas would not indicate Kartrutva Shakti. Before that, please show the last slide of Supratyay. Okay, I'm showing the last slide over here before. This is the last slide. Now there is a question over here. Su aujas won't indicate Kartrutva Shakti, neither Sambodhana. Yes, in Sambodhana also it won't indicate the Karma Shakti because Sambodhana has nothing to do with Kriya. When you say, Hey Rama, Atra Agacha, the Rama Sambodhana has nothing to do with Kriya over there. Agacha is Rama will come. That's a different karta over there. The Rama as in Hey Rama is not related to the Kriya. So even in the Sambodhana, Supratyas do not indicate karta. Homework. Yes, Sambodhana. So Sambodhana is not a Shakti at all because Shakti is a Karaka. Somebody is asking Sambodhana Shakti. It's not a word like that because Karaka Shakti. Sambodhana is not a Karaka. So you don't say Prathama Shakti, Dvitiya Shakti, Tritiya Shakti. You say Kartutva Shakti, Karmatva Shakti. So whenever there is a Karaka, there is a Shakti over there. Now some diligent student, hardworking student has asked for homework. Teachers always love students, right? Okay, so the homework is mix of sup and ting. You only do the sup part. So kim nama karakam kati karakani santi pratyekam karakasya ekam udaharanam likhata. You should be able to do that. Karakam tatha sup pratyayaha etayoho madhye kaha sambandhaha udaharanam datva vivrunuta. You should be able to do this. Sup pratyayaha dyotakaha santi ting pratyayaha vachakaha santi. I am revealing some magic. So this you don't know. I have not taught this. But supratyaya dyotakaha santi. Katham, you will be able to answer that. Supratyayanam kani prayojanani santi. So 5 prayojanas, that is the last slide. You should be able to answer this. And in this particular question, half of the part you will be able to answer. Adhodatteshu vakyeshu karta kaha, karma kim, karanam kim. So which pratyayas are indicating karta, karma, karana? Some of them you will be able to answer. So in Ramaha Grantham Pathati, you know that will indicate karma. But you know that su doesn't indicate karta. So you are not fully equipped with answering this question yet. So you can leave this question and you can leave the ting vachakaha santi part. You can answer the remaining questions. Any further discussion? Please show slide number 13 once more. The video will be available in like 4 hours for maybe 10 hours. Don't take tension. This is slide number 13. Okay. There is a question on question 3 previous homework that you can discuss with your teachers, or we can meet in a separate class to discuss the homeworks. It's already more than 2 hours. We should respect everybody's timing. So let's stop. I will go to the Mangalacharam slide. The video will be available. Please watch. I really want you to watch the videos because these things once, unless you write them down, they are not going to be clear. Believe me. Anyway, Samapayamaha. In the next week, we will meet as usual for the Ting Pratyayaha. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. धन्यवादः.